Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how I set up my desk for a calligraphy order. We get a lot of questions about what my desk actually looks like when I'm sitting down working, so I'm going to take you step by step through what my desk actually looks like when I'm working on an envelope order, for example. Alright, so what does my desk actually look like when I'm working? So right now I have a very large white desk. My computer is always open, usually at the upper left side of the desk. When I'm in my home office, which is rare these days, but when I am working at home, it's on the right side just of how that room is configured. So you see I have my computer, I've gathered my tools, I have a desk pad that I work on. I never write directly on the table. You need to have a shock absorber when you're writing to preserve the life of your nib and also to keep your hand comfortable while you're working. So having a shock absorber underneath your envelopes is really going to help with that. I have my preferred lining tool, which is the Phantom liner. I'll link to it below. So you can check that out and we'll kind of go through how I use that too here. So I set that off to the side. I have the envelopes that I'm going to work on. The envelopes I always put off to my left side, and before I work on them I make sure that they're all facing the same direction, and I put them off to my left side with the flap up. So the reason I always have the flap up is so that I know when I flip it over I'm writing on the envelope oriented properly. So it's very common to be in a groove and not realize that the envelope might be upside down. So this just helps me so that I know when I set it down it's right side up. Okay, so then I have my list. Usually that is off to the upper left side, and I just kind of set it out of the way. I have my pen with a nib in it. I have a paper towel and I have ink. So usually I have white and black ink out on the desk. I like to keep the desk pretty clean, so not cluttered. That's just me. You can't see it, but there is clutter off to the sides. We won't show that though. And then usually I have a pen, a regular pen or pencil, just so that I can make notes on the list if I need to. A lot of times I'll be working on an order and I might notice usually like an error in spelling, or especially on zip codes. So I've been working on envelopes for a while and I've gotten pretty used to what zip codes go in what state, so I can kind of notice pretty easily if one is wrong. So I'll use that to cross it out if I do notice. Another thing that you can do if you're just starting out is use washi tape to mark off spacing on the envelope. When I'm taping off the envelope, if you need to account for stamps, I'll set my envelope down, and usually the wedding planner or the stationer will tell us how much space to allow for the stamps, but just for the sake of showing you what that looks like, I'll put some on here just so you can visualize it. So let's say this was our stamp orientation. So in this case, we would need to allow for 2 inches of stamps. So I wouldn't want any writing to go higher than 2 inches, at least on the right hand side of the envelope. So any names that are longer will have to start lower than 2 inches. So if we take the stamps away, first I will tape out where the envelope is going to sit on the writing desk pad. So I tape off the corners first. And you notice I have the envelope at an angle because when I write I have my paper turned to an angle. So I'm going to have my tape at an angle as well. So I'll tape off my edges, my corners. And if you need to tape one envelope down just so it doesn't move around, feel free to do that. Actually, I might just do that right now. so it won't move. Okay, and this isn't really specific. It's really just to show you when you flip your envelope over and set it down where you're supposed to set it so that it doesn't change from envelope to envelope. Okay, and so this is a basic A7 envelope, but you could do it for any envelope size. And this is just one of many ways that I do this, but I'm sure there's other ways to do it too. Okay, so now I'm gonna mark off 2 inches from the top. And I know I cannot start above that point. And mark it on both sides. Okay, and then if you need to put another piece of washi tape there, go ahead and do that. Okay, and then if you want to, you can mark the center of the envelope. So this is an A7 envelope, so it's approximately 7 inches wide. It's a little bit wider to fit a 5x7 card. So you're gonna mark the center. So it's a little more than 3.5 inches. And you can just set a piece of washi tape down there so that you have an idea of the visual center of your envelope. So when you go to center your addresses, you can kind of visualize how much goes on the left of the center and how much goes to the right of the center, and that just helps with centering. Okay, so once my envelope is in its little temporary guideline area here on the desk pad, I put my phantom liner down. So like I mentioned, the phantom liner is my personal preferred tool for writing in a straight line. A lot of people use a laser liner, and I just like the phantom liner because it's lightweight. You can take it apart and travel with it pretty easily. It's 3 pieces, so it folds up to about this big. It's very easy to travel with, so I like it. So I set the phantom liner down, and the phantom liner has guidelines on the left side, or the right side if you're left-handed. I line this lower line up with the edge of the envelope, and I'm going to line this uppermost line up with the top of the washi tape. So that's how I'm going to start this. So we'll do black ink, so hopefully you can see it. And just looking through the phantom liner at the reflection of lines, I can ensure that I'm writing in a straight line and I'm writing underneath that 2-inch mark, leaving enough space for the vintage stamps or whatever else you might need to avoid up at the top of the envelope. And then once the envelope is complete, I lay them at the upper edge of my desk to dry. And so they get layered in a way that the first one can dry while the second one is getting written on, and then I stack them usually about 5 or 6 down in the row. And then by the time I get to the edge of the desk, I go back up to the top, and that envelope in theory should be dry. If you're not sure if it's dry, you might want to get like an envelope drying rack, or just make sure that it's dry before you set another envelope on top of it, but you kind of get used to how long it takes an envelope to dry, so you'll know. But that's how I do it. So hopefully these little tips were helpful for you when you sit down to work on an envelope order. As always, I will link to all the resources below, so make sure you check them out, and we hope to see you guys back here next time.